As usual, we got an all-star panel giving you some fire here. All right. So our last topic of the night, JR likes to call it the meat, is about men's insecurities. And he forgot to send me the video, but I pulled it up. I pulled it up. All right. So is it his problem unmasking male insecurities? Let me get this video started for y'all.
Typically, when you ask women, what are men supposed to do to make you happy in a relationship? The answer is summarized somewhere around security, make me feel secure. When I ask women on my page, what would you do if you felt insecure in a relationship? The number 1 and 2 answers were leave or cheat. Now, when I ask another question, what would you do if your man asked you to change clothes before you left because he didn't want to get into any altercations where he was going? Women said, that man sounds weak. That man sounds insecure. So how do you reconcile these two things? When you're feeling insecure, it's the man's fault. But when the man's feeling insecure, it's still his fault. It's not you being weak or any of that type of stuff. It's something that he's doing wrong. But when he's feeling insecure, it's his problem. If a man is supposed to be the one who is in charge of your security and making you feel secure, then when he's feeling insecure, why isn't that an indication that you're doing something wrong? If he has all the responsibility of making you secure, but none of the authority to actually enforce it, how is he supposed to do anything? So that's my question to y'all. How come when you're feeling insecure, it's the man's problem, but when a man shows you signs of insecurity, he's weak?
That's one hell of a question. This is a free for all. Y'all dive in at will. Go ahead.
That's
One
it.
I
mic,
think
please.
a lot of times we expect men to not really show their insecurities. They don't really broadcast it very much. So when we see it in a man, we're like, oh, this is insecurity. We're not used to seeing this in men. So there's something wrong with you. But realistically, it's pretty natural for people to have insecurities. We shouldn't put that stress on men. But honestly, I gotta be honest, I was doing that in the past. If somebody was doing something, especially a man, if a man was doing something that I was like, that's insecure, I would think he was a weak man. I would think he was lesser than, and I would call him out about it too. So I had to learn and grow from that because that's toxic as fuck. But I didn't realize at the time. I just felt like, oh, I know what a real man is. Real men do this. Real men do that. Real men do this. You're not one.
I
All
think
right.
that's the simple answer would be your job as a partner, spouse, whatever you want to identify it as, is to do what the other person feels secure with you doing. I don't know why we act like, oh, if I wouldn't get mad at it, you're this. If he's insecure and he's saying, hey, it will make me feel more comfortable what you're wearing, 9 times out of 10, what you're wearing is probably inappropriate. I don't think if you wore something appropriate, a man would have a problem. Now, if you are wearing something appropriate and you're just shapely and your figure just busts out, then that's a whole other conversation. But in general, if he's saying something, I think it's your responsibility to make sure your partner is feeling secure. Now, if you're doing your job to make sure they feel secure and the reason why they feel insecure is their own internal issues, then I need to go to like some couples counseling or something to know how to communicate and work with them through their own personal issues if you want to stay. But if that person feels insecure the same way us women want them to listen to us and make us feel more secure, such as maybe I want you to text me when you get here. I want you to call me in the morning. Maybe I don't want you to hop on something and tell me before you actually acknowledge me. There's a lot of things that make us insecure, and we know it's his responsibility. I think it's the same vice versa. I think men just aren't as vocal, like she was saying, with their insecurities, and they're not as comfortable with voicing them to say, hey, that's making me feel a way that you wearing it. They want to make it seem like they're not tripping, but then later on they tripping. So yeah.
I agree. I guess I have a deeper question. My question would be, are like, is he in a situationship or a relationship? Because most men that have been in relationships, they'll tell you the first thing a woman does when she puts on her clothes, she comes out and says, what? How do I look? Yes, like, is my butt too big? Is this too tight? Can you see my stomach? And at
Butt
that
too
point,
big.
most men will give their feedback. So if he's in a situationship and he's just going to her house to pick her up, that's not really your woman. And if you want a little bit of governance over what she wears, then make her your woman. That's the first thing. On the flip side, when it comes to accountability for a woman, I think it's a woman's responsibility to communicate. You know, if you're in a relationship and not a situationship, then you have to communicate. if you have a moment, if you're triggered. That's your issue. But you have to communicate that with him. If you're in a situationship with that man, he really don't owe you nothing, to be honest.
So if in general, women are calling men who are insecure weak men, what do they say to the sons who don't have a father in the household, which causes the boys to be predisposed to insecurity? What do they call them?
What was the question? What do they call men, boys who are what? I'm sorry.
Raised in a house without a dad
Oh,
and exposed to those insecurities.
feminine men.
I'm sorry, Bruce. Exposed to what insecurities?
I don't understand the question.
So I didn't think I had to delve into that. I just thought that we all had an understanding that young boys who grow up without a father in the household have insecurities.
What
I mean,
insecurities
we could talk
are those?
about the insecurities, but I just thought maybe everybody had an understanding of which.
But isn't it up to him to deal with those insecurities in however way he can before he gets with a woman that he's responsible for?
No, I'm talking prior to him
It's
actually
very
going out to
important for
dating.
men
Like,
to number
his
one.
overall behavior, his overall psyche. You know, like is it safe to say that these young boys are weak men? If
Yes,
these
but
women are calling them-
they have to stay away from women because just in my opinion, I can only speak for me. A man is responsible for a woman's safety. He's responsible for a woman's emotional safety. He's responsible for providing for that woman when he takes her, you know, I know it's a little different world, but when he takes her away from her dad, you know what I mean? Like that's where she comes from. So it's important because I look at two different things. A man that's insecure or a man that's vulnerable. I think it's important for a woman to cover the man when he becomes vulnerable because he's human. But if he has a lot, because we all are insecure about something, but when a man is overtly insecure, he don't need to be around a woman because the number one thing a woman needs is safety. And that means when a woman feels unsafe, emotionally, physically, or financially, she's going to have a problem. And the first thing she's going to say is, I might as well do this by myself because she's been trying to keep herself safe for years. But now
let me ask you this.
Hold on. But now she's with an insecure man. That's even worse than her being by herself because we all know when a woman is on her own, she has a certain amount of masculine energy. She has to figure her life out or whatever. But when she gives up that masculine energy and gives her man whatever it is that he wants, which is to be feminine, but he becomes insecure, now she's confused.